The moment your life begins to rise, something invisible shifts around you. Before you say a word, before you explain yourself, before success even settles in, certain people feel it. The room changes, energy tightens, smiles lose warmth. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your growth awakens something they worked hard to keep asleep. Your success doesn't confront them loudly, it confronts them honestly. And honesty is uncomfortable for anyone avoiding themselves. Success triggers people because it exposes contrast. When you grow, your discipline becomes visible without you saying a word. Your consistency highlights their inconsistency. Your courage magnifies their hesitation. This contrast creates internal discomfort, and instead of facing it honestly, many project it outward. They turn that discomfort into judgment, sarcasm, silence, or quiet resentment. Your progress becomes the evidence they did not ask for, but cannot ignore. For some, your success awakens old wounds they never healed, dreams they abandoned, talents they buried, promises they broke to themselves. Watching you move forward reminds them of the life they once imagined, but slowly surrendered. That reminder hurts, and rather than take responsibility for their choices, it feels easier to question your motives, minimize your efforts, or secretly hope you fail. Your success presses against the part of them that chose comfort over courage. Success also disrupts unspoken hierarchies. In many relationships, people grow comfortable seeing you in a certain position, predictable, familiar, non-threatening. When you rise, you unintentionally break the agreement they made in their mind about who you were supposed to be. This shift makes them feel unstable. They may not say it directly, but your growth threatens the roles they assign themselves as superior, wiser, or more advanced. There is also fear beneath the surface, fear that your success will create distance, fear that they will no longer relate to you, fear that they will be left behind. Instead of admitting that fear, some people disguise it as criticism or indifference. They convince themselves that your success has changed you, when in truth, it has simply revealed who was never comfortable with you evolving. Success triggers insecurity because it removes excuses. When someone sees you succeed with fewer resources, less support, or more obstacles, it quietly dismantles the reasons they told themselves for not trying. Your existence becomes proof that effort matters. That proof is uncomfortable for those who rely on justification to stay stagnant. Rather than rising to the challenge, they attempt to emotionally pull you back down to where they feel safe. What makes this dynamic so powerful is that it often comes from people closest to you. Not strangers, not critics online, but familiar faces who watched you struggle before you grew. They remember the version of you that doubted, waited, and stayed small. When you outgrow that version, it confuses them. Some celebrate quietly, others feel threatened, silently. The closer they are, the more intense the trigger can be. Understand this clearly. Your success is not the problem. It is the spotlight. It reveals admiration, envy, fear, and unresolved pain all at once. You do not need to shrink, explain, or dim your light to make others comfortable. The reaction you receive is information, not instruction. Stay grounded, stay observant, and most importantly, stay moving forward, because the people meant to walk with you will never be disturbed by your growth, only inspired by it. Comparison is the quiet engine behind most triggered reactions. When people see your success, they don't just observe it, they measure themselves against it. Even if they never say a word, an internal calculation begins. Where am I compared to them? Why not me? What did they do differently? This comparison isn't always conscious, but it is deeply emotional. And for those who already doubt themselves, the outcome rarely feels fair in their mind. Some people believed they were ahead of you. They assumed time, age, experience, or proximity would guarantee their progress. Your success disrupts that belief. It challenges the idea that life rewards position instead of persistence. When you rise unexpectedly, it destabilizes their sense of order. They are forced to confront a truth they avoided. Effort, focus, and courage often outweigh entitlement. Comparison becomes painful when pride is involved. Instead of using your success as motivation, pride turns it into an insult. They begin to rewrite your story, calling it luck, timing, favoritism, or coincidence, anything except earned growth. This narrative protects their ego. If your success is undeserved, then their lack of progress doesn't feel like failure. It feels justified. What makes this even more intense is that comparison often comes with silence. They don't confront you. They don't ask how you did it. They don't learn from you. Instead, they withdraw emotionally. Support becomes inconsistent. Encouragement fades. You may feel a subtle coldness where warmth once existed. This silence is not peace, it's internal conflict they don't know how to resolve. Some will start watching you more closely, not to cheer you on, but to find flaws. Every mistake becomes proof that you're not as capable as your success suggests. Every struggle becomes evidence that you'll eventually fall. This hyper-observation is fueled by the hope that your success is temporary. It comforts them to believe that balance will be restored when you return to where they feel equal again. The most dangerous form of comparison is disguised support. Smiles that don't reach the eyes, compliments followed by subtle doubt, advice you didn't ask for that questions your direction. This behavior feels confusing because it's not openly hostile, yet it drains you. It carries mixed energy, part admiration, part resentment. And if you're not attentive, it can slowly erode your confidence. People trapped in comparison often feel shame, not because of you, but because your progress highlights their inaction. Shame makes people defensive. People protect their identity at all costs. That's why they resist learning from you. It would require admitting that change is possible. And if change is possible, then avoidance becomes a choice, not a circumstance. Here's what you must remember. Comparison is their internal battle, not your responsibility. You are not ahead or behind. You are simply aligned with your path. The moment you stop shrinking to preserve comfort, you become a trigger for those who rely on comparison to define themselves. Stay focused. Stay detached. Let your growth speak without explanation. Those who truly support you won't measure themselves against your success. They'll celebrate it as proof that growth is possible. Success becomes deeply triggering when it threatens someone's ego. Ego is built on identity, who a person believes they are, how they see their place in the world, and what they think they deserve. When you succeed, you unintentionally challenge those beliefs. Your progress suggests that the story they tell themselves may be incomplete or outdated. For someone strongly attached to their identity, this feels less like inspiration and more like an attack. Some people survive by believing they are smarter, more capable, or more deserving than others. This belief gives them emotional security. When you rise beyond expectations, it fractures that security. Suddenly, they must reconcile two conflicting realities, their self-image and your visible results. Instead of updating their self-image, many choose to reject your success. Denial becomes easier than self-reflection. This ego threat often leads to subtle power struggles. They may interrupt you more, dismiss your ideas, speak over your achievements, or change the subject when you're acknowledged. These behaviors are attempts to reclaim dominance without appearing openly threatened. The goal isn't to harm you directly, it's to re-establish their sense of superiority. In some cases, people respond by redefining success altogether. They claim what you've achieved doesn't really matter, or isn't that impressive. This isn't an objective assessment, it's psychological defense. By minimizing your accomplishment, they protect their ego from feeling small. The irony is that the more they downplay it, the more clearly their insecurity reveals itself. Ego feels safest when others remain predictable. Your growth disrupts that predictability. You no longer fit the role they assigned you, student, follower, underdog, or background presence. When you step beyond that role, it creates emotional instability. They don't know how to relate to you anymore, so they try to pull you back into familiarity. For some, your success forces them to confront unearned confidence. They spoke boldly, but acted little. They judged freely, but risked nothing. When your results appear, it exposes the gap between words and action. That exposure feels humiliating, even if you never intended it. Ego hates exposure more than failure itself. This is why Success often attracts passive resistance rather than open confrontation. Ego prefers subtle sabotage, missed support, delayed responses, lack of acknowledgement, because it allows them to maintain a public image while privately resisting your rise. The battlefield is emotional, not obvious. When you understand this, you stop taking reactions personally. Ego reacts when it feels threatened, and your success is simply a reminder of what is possible. You are not responsible for protecting someone else's identity. Your task is to stay aligned, humble, and consistent. Let your results speak softly but firmly. Those whose ego cannot handle your growth were never meant to lead your journey. Only witness it. Success becomes triggering when people realize they no longer have influence over you. In the past, they may have offered advice, direction, or approval that shaped your decisions. Your growth signals independence. It tells them you trust yourself now. For those who relied on having a say in your life, this shift feels like losing control, and loss of control often turns into quiet resentment. Some people feel valuable only when they are needed. When you succeed, you need less validation, less guidance, and less permission. This change threatens their sense of importance. Instead of celebrating your self-sufficiency, they may interpret it as rejection. Your independence makes them feel obsolete, even though you never intended to replace them. Control can be subtle. It doesn't always look like commands. It looks like expectations about how fast you should grow, how far you should go, and when you should stop. When your success exceeds those expectations, it disrupts their emotional leverage. They can no longer predict you, and unpredictability makes controlling personalities uncomfortable. This is where support often turns conditional. Encouragement is given only when you stay within boundaries that feel safe to them. The moment you expand beyond those boundaries, their tone changes. They become cautious, distant, or critical, not because you're wrong, but because your expansion threatens their emotional authority. Some respond by increasing pressure. They remind you of your past. They bring up mistakes you've outgrown. They subtly imply that you're changing too much. This is an attempt to anchor you to an older version of yourself where they felt more secure. Growth, to them, feels like abandonment. Others withdraw completely. Silence replaces involvement. They stop asking about your goals. They stop showing interest. This withdrawal is not indifference, it's discomfort. They don't know how to relate to a version of you they can't guide, influence, or control. The hardest realization is that control often hides behind concern. Statements like, "I just want what's best for you," can sometimes mask fear of losing relevance. True concern empowers growth. Control restricts it. Your success reveals which one was present all along. When you feel this shift, resist the urge to explain yourself. Growth doesn't require permission. Independence doesn't need justification. Let people adjust in their own time. Those who truly care will adapt. Those who cannot release control will reveal themselves through resistance. Your responsibility is not to remain manageable. It is to remain authentic and aligned with who you are becoming. Success does not change who people are, it reveals it. When you rise, you don't create envy, resentment, or discomfort. You expose what already lived beneath the surface. Some people discover admiration within themselves and feel inspired. Others discover unresolved pain, jealousy, or fear they never addressed. Your success acts as a truth test, separating those who are aligned with growth from those who are attached to stagnation. The final trigger is realization. People begin to understand that your success is not accidental, it is sustained. You didn't just arrive, you endured. This realization removes hope that your progress is temporary. And when people accept that you are no longer returning to the old version of yourself, their reactions intensify. Acceptance or distance becomes inevitable. This is where respect quietly forms. Even those who struggled with your growth begin to see that you cannot be shaken. Your consistency disarms resistance. You no longer need to announce your confidence. It shows in how you move, how you respond, and how you remain calm in the presence of doubt. Stability becomes your loudest statement. At this stage, you understand something crucial. Not everyone is meant to grow with you. Some are meant to observe, some to learn from afar, and some to fade naturally. This is not loss, it is alignment. Making peace with this truth frees you from over-explaining, over-giving, and over-correcting yourself to maintain comfort for others. Your success is permission, not just for you, but for others watching quietly. Let it be visible, let it be steady, let it be grounded. You were never meant to carry everyone with you, only to walk your path with integrity. Those who are triggered are simply facing their own crossroads. You chose growth, and that choice will always unsettle those who haven't yet found the courage to do the same.